Hello there, my name's Andrew Griffiths from ZDNet. Welcome to our Better Ways of Doing Business panel, and tonight our topic is working smarter. Clearly a pretty important topic. On our panel tonight, from our left, we've got Mr. Bob Greenup, who is the BNI Sydney Central Region owner. Bob works regularly with about 600 small business owners, so a pretty knowledgeable guy to have on the panel. We've got Peter Zigopoulos, who we call Ziggy, who is the chair and founder of 3P Financial. So welcome, Ziggy. We've got the lovely Lisa Conway here, and Lisa's a business coaching and training business. That's your main business, isn't it, Zing? And you're also you're the author of A Naked Salon. So that's your space there, working with hairdressing salons, beauty salons, etc. Yep. And we've got Troy Eggins. Welcome, mate. And you run a business called Trojan Tech Group, an electrical communications and technology business for 20 years. Correct. And I believe that you're extremely passionate about customer service.
Yes, I can be a little passionate.
Righto, great. All right, welcome, folks. Our topic today is working smarter. And I think for me, it's a topic that gets thrown around a lot. Everyone's saying, oh, we've got to work smarter, we've got to work smarter. I've got to say, what does it mean? What does it mean to you, Bob?
Well, for me, it's about passion. I mean, I don't mind working hard as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And all my working life, which has been pretty extensive now, I've always worked towards trying to do something I could really feel that I could enjoy, and then I don't care how long I work. As long as I'm enjoying it, no problems. So if I'm not enjoying it, it feels like hard work even if I'm doing 20 hours a week. So
what do you do if you're not enjoying it?
If I'm not enjoying it, I try to delegate it or try to change it. And sometimes
give it to someone else.
Give it to someone else. Find somebody else's passion. Often you'll find that some of the things you don't like doing, other people love doing. Right? Really we're all different personality styles around. So if you can give it to somebody who loves that, give it to them. Okay. Don't hold back. Too many small businesses want to hang on to everything because they're trying to save a dollar. Yep. But if you're not passionate about it, you won't do a good job anyway. Okay. All right.
What about you, Lisa? What does working smarter mean for you?
For me...
What advice do you give to your coaching clients?
Well, in hair and beauty salons, I think you've got to delegate, I call the onion chopping, the small things, you know, applying a tint or doing a blow wave. And I think I try and teach them to come in like a surgeon. You know, the surgeon doesn't come into the theatre and go, oh, I haven't changed the sheets, and pulls the gloves off and makes the bed. So in salons, I feel like there's not a level. So I think as a hairdresser, for example, you need to be doing the foil work and the cutting, the thing that takes years to learn, and not the basic stuff. But I find they're a little bit, and we were talking before, they're like meerkats. They give it away, and then they go, oh, who's doing it?
So they're micromanaged.
Yeah.
The whole concept of micro.
No, so train them and then let them go, and then critique it and go again. Okay. You know, fix it once is my thinking.
Okay. And Troy, what about you? What's your take on working smarter? Is it just a cliche?
Somewhat. I think it's having the right resources, the right skill sets, doing the right tasks, kind of like Bob was saying. My experience in the past, I've had guys in my business that have a certain skill set here, and I've tried to get them to do something, and it just hasn't turned out as well as I expected, and I need to take responsibility for that. And I say, you can't get orange juice from an apple. If you want to get orange juice, you need to get apples. No.
Is that
the other way around, right? And that's probably where I went wrong.
And that's where you've been going wrong all these years. And I've got to say, the analogy side, this table's really good. You guys are terrible.
Oh,
we've got meerkats, we've got apples and oranges. So I'm going to go over to you, Ziggy. You tell us.
Fruit salad.
You tell us. I know.
Well, Andrew, for me, working smarter, I think, is about getting that work balance, that work-life balance right that we hear of so often. And that just means being more efficient in your business. So having processes that can be automated, have them automated, so that the mundane things or the things that can be automated, that allows the business owner to be able to work on the bigger things, but also to be able to leverage the business so that the business continues growing, but at the same time the business owner has a good lifestyle.
Okay, so working smarter is all about, what I take out of all of that is generally training and delegation. Yep. If I was going to define it, and passion.
Yeah, one point I'd like to pick up on the meerkats one, though, because one of the things I've always found very successful for me is always try to employ or recruit people who are smarter than you in that particular area, and you don't have the meerkat problem. You'll actually feel like you're empowered by giving that task off to somebody who has greater skill sets than you do, and you're comfortable.
Do you think small business owners do that?
No, I think they try to control. No. They try to control.
We tend to, I've got to say for myself as well, I've been guilty of that over the years. You tend to micromanage, you tend to meerkat manage a little bit, looking over everything. And I think, how do you stop that? What's the way that you stop that?
We've been guilty. I mean, these old adages that have been around, if you want to get something done, do it yourself.
Yeah.
These things need to change. And so, we need to be able to delegate and then release that control so that you can ultimately have really good people around you who one day will buy the business off you, because that's what it's all about.
I think
but
the
you've
other
got to
part
train
of it
them
too,
first.
part, coming back to what you were saying before, Lisa, was that when you actually delegate and you empower people to make decisions with that delegation, you actually create a very positive culture for them to stay long term, because they want to get satisfaction out of their job, satisfaction out of their intellectual power within the business. If you try to control it and do the meerkat thing, you're actually disempowering them and you're ruining the culture in your business. And you can't grow your business, you can't retain staff.
Well, you're saying, by watching, you're saying, I don't think you can do it properly.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's a really,
I don't trust you.
it's not a good thought process, yeah.
So what about if you don't have staff? What about if you haven't got a team and you're just doing your own thing? How do you work smarter then?
Well, I think today with, there's so many, yesterday I had to answer 10 questions, so I recorded them for an interview, which I didn't have time to type. So I answered the 10 questions, and so online for a $5, I think I paid $40. They came back within 24 hours, all typed up.
Outsourcing
so
to a company
there's no
like
excuse. Just because you won doesn't mean you won. There's an endless amount of help out there, people who can help you.
Having a good pool of resources around you.
Yeah, and do the things you love. Like you said, do the things you love, or do the things that take the longest to train someone to do. I always say, what I find in salons is a haircut is exactly the same price as a tint application. So for those of you who don't have greys, I have 2 or 3, and every 4 weeks you have to paint your roots. Well, if you give me a student, I can teach her in a week, but I can't teach anyone to cut this curly head of hair. It takes years. And even the good cutters can't cut my hair.
So do the high value product.
Do the high value, the things that really take a long time to do, and do that. And I found when I was trying to cut back when I had a hair salon, if I just cut your hair and someone else coloured it, took your money, rebooked you, shaved the back of your neck and all that, I'm doing a third of the work, and someone at $8 or $10 an hour can do the rest of it. So that's smart.
Okay, so what about then if we looked at working smarter as a different angle as well about reducing costs? A discussion that is certainly one that I have with people over the past many years has always been about, there are many ways or hidden costs in a business that we can reduce, such as negotiating. Always that whole concept of negotiating. I made mention of a business that I work with, and they keep a track of how much money they save each year simply by asking, is that the best price? And in 1 year, this business saved well over $50,000, between $50,000 and $100,000. And the owner actually says, I've paid off my house in 7 years by simply asking that one line, is that the best price you can do? So what is your take, Troy? What's your take on reducing costs?
I think that the thing that was coming through my mind when you were speaking there was around value. So we see often people will try and, they take the bottom number, and then you end up with a product that's not quite as good, and then you end up replacing it sooner. So that's probably, the value question for me is probably more important than is that the best price you can do. It might be around the value, because sometimes you can spend 10% more but get an extra 12, double the longevity of the product.
But I think the business needs to explain the value. And I say when someone calls your salon and says how much of a haircut, you shouldn't drop a number like it's Tats Lotto.
Well, that's
47, 82.
And
that's right.
That is a normal response in a business.
Yeah, but it shouldn't.
You automatically say how much, and we answer that without being able to define it better. Or bad businesses, I think, tend to do that.
I think it comes from not probably understanding the value that you bring to someone with the service that you provide.
Sure.
So. But also, Andrew, there's how many businesses out there don't know what their costs are?
Well,
so you got...
That's a great point, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not just going to say, Bob, you deal with plenty of businesses, but, how often are they really recording, all the different costs? I mean, they tend to know their fixed costs, which are obvious and evident, but then when it comes to the variable costs, it sort of becomes a mishmash of probably, lumped into a few different categories.
Well, and I would even question that for a lot of businesses, that they really do know what their fixed costs are. I used to ask this question at conferences and things. How many of you know exactly how much it costs you to open your doors for 1 month 1 week, 1 day and 1 hour. And to know that figure so you've got your target. And very few businesses, I think, really do know those costs. So you haven't really got a target. It's also a lot of finances are done retrospectively. They're not done on an ongoing basis. So you find out at the end of a year whether you've made or lost money, which is kind of too late then in reality, isn't it?
Yeah, but things have changed now with cloud computing.
Thank goodness.
There's absolutely no reason not to know your costs every week.
Exactly.
And you should be doing it.
But do you think people do?
Well, one of the things that I find, certainly in this country, not necessarily in other countries, but in this country, the biggest single cost control that you've actually got to control in the business is your efficiency, because people waste product and they waste time. When they're redoing things that they could have literally got the procedures right, got the delegation right, got the processes right, and just got it right the first time, the number of businesses I see that actually just redo, it could be redo work, could be go back to the site because they didn't do it properly the first time, they didn't train the operative correctly. There's a lot of wastage goes on in small business. That's much more than the purchase of the materials.
Well, and even sometimes it can be quite overt wastage. I remember I had a receptionist who used to order all of my stationery in a marketing company, and I remember having a look in the cupboard one day, and I've got like 30 printer cartridges. I've got enough printer cartridges for the end of time. And what I wonder, why have we got, and they're like $300 each, so thousands of dollars tied up, but I found out that there was a special, and every time she bought 3 cartridges, she got an iPod or something like that. So she was in the black market of selling iPods, and I was ending up with all these printer cartridges. So I guess for me, that's always been a bit of a thing of not being overly controlling, perhaps not being a meerkat, but being aware of what's being spent in your business.
Yeah, having a guideline.
Well, rules and regs, I guess, to follow. I mean, that sounds so draconian, but I think awareness. If it's your business, if your name is on the bottom of the check stub, if anyone uses check stubs anymore, you have that responsibility of knowing your costs, knowing your revenue stream, knowing your customers, and I think you owe it to the business too to make sure that you are being as efficient as you can, in whatever shape or form that looks.
So the difficulty, coming back to working smarter, the difficulty in business even now, I'm finding that there are so many areas that I know can be more efficient through some systems and procedures, and there's that balancing act between servicing the clients that are coming through, getting new clients, to the other side, which is working more on the business and making sure that as those clients come in, the systems and procedures are there so that the level of service is maintained throughout. And that's what I'm finding at the moment.
And I think that's a really great point, that as business owners, I think we're all feeling we've got a lot more stuff to do. And this whole working smarter is actually, as much as it's a cliche, it's more relevant now than it's ever been, but we're still just trying to go, well, we've got all those extra things that we've got to do, and now more than ever, we've got to put faith in other people, we've got to be training, we've got to have great systems in place, we've got to embrace technology, we've got to know our limitations to some degree, know what we're good at, and in amongst all of that, I think, as you said, Bob, we've got to make sure that we're doing the things that we're passionate about, and I think it's more complicated.
Well, getting that culture right, because if you're going to grow your business, if you haven't got the culture right, it should follow your passion. But if you haven't got your culture right, as you grow and you want to put on more people, you're not going to translate into the customer service that they actually expect, because you've now removed yourself. Your culture hasn't been transmitted. So you need to make sure you've got that culture flowing all the way through everywhere. One of the problems I do see around is that people might have a good culture with their clients, but they treat their staff differently. That's lack of credibility. That's not your culture. You're actually just putting on a mask with your clients, and you're not treating your internal clients, your stakeholders, the same way. That'll erode the value of the business every time.
Okay, interesting. All right, one key point. What advice would you give to a business owner watching this to work smarter, Troy?
I think going back, we're talking about procedures and systems and all that sort of stuff, and I remember back in the early days, probably 5 years in, and we had 20 people, and I had no systems or processes, so probably being clear on who's doing what. That's probably my managing.
So really define roles, making sure that whoever should be doing the right thing is doing the right thing. Yeah,
because labour is the biggest cost in your business.
Okay. Yeah, great. Lisa, what's your one thing?
Fix it once. Just when something goes wrong, try and work out why, and make it so that it won't happen again. So whatever that is, it might be that you're giving a task to someone who's not qualified. So that means you need a checklist to tick them off so they're qualified, so the risk is low. And I think that they can continually put out fires when really you've got to find out who's starting them. You know, so fix it once.
Great. Okay. Ziggy, what's your piece of gold?
Well, probably my accounting background coming out in this, but I would say resources in budgeting. And I think that before you can actually set up the systems and procedures and actually know what to do, I think you do need to sit down and say, okay, well, over the next 12 months, what resources do I have? What available cash do I have in the business to be able to employ someone, to be able to get a consultant in the various aspects to attend to these? So I think really something like budgeting in terms of forward planning, I think is key. I think you just can't go past it, because otherwise, if there's no plan in place, then how do you know where to begin, or what areas of the business need to be targeted?
Well, I think as business owners, we're all a bit guilty too of flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
And it's perhaps planning a bit on the run, which is not ideal, of course, particularly for an accountant background.
No. Need to do some planning.
We feel chastised. We feel chastised. Bob, what about you, mate?
Do what you do best and delegate the rest.
Yeah.
Basically, the biggest challenge most small business owners have is they're terrified of putting on staff and delegating, and they think that they just see the costs going out, but they don't appreciate the efficiencies that brings to them spending time on the things they're really good at. Then they can actually leverage to a different level. Every business I've ever owned, I've never been scared to put on staff and pay top money. I've actually always paid industry-leading salaries. I want the best people better than me, and that's always paid off for me.
Yeah, great, thank you. I mean, my tip would be that I think that you've got to invest time to actually learn stuff. So to work smarter means you've got to actually give yourself time to learn to use technology, give yourself time to train, give yourself time to train others, those kind of things as well. So, and I think we don't do that. Again, we buy a new computer, but we don't learn how to use it, is that so? Thank you, Troy. Great to have you here for the panel. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ziggy. Wonderful words of wisdom, and thank you, Bob, too. Appreciate your time and appreciate your advice. Thank you, folks, for watching the Small Business Focus. I'm Andrew Griffiths. I really hope that you enjoyed our panel tonight. Tune in next Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about, is the customer really king? It's going to be an exciting panel and a lot of discussion around that concept. Thank you.